Good morning, good morning, good morning. And thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I have an incredible show for you today. Every show is incredible, but today there's something magical about sitting down with these lovely young ladies and talking about business, life, and changing the world. But before I go ahead and introduce today's guest, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go out and be an evangelist for the Roundtable Talk Show. There's someone in your network. I know. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it today. There's someone in your network who needs this information. Maybe they're just starting their business. Maybe they want to go into politics. Maybe, I don't know, they're in a career phase and they want to learn from the experts, but they won't have this information unless you go ahead and share the show with them. So while you're sharing the show with your network, I am going to go ahead and introduce our very first guest, the lovely Miss Nicole Alexander. Nicole is the principal designer and founder of Siren Betty Design, an interiors firm specializing in restaurants, bars, hotels, and other hospitality spaces. Good morning, Nicole. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you. Yeah, it's so good to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. I was looking forward to sitting down with you and speaking with you. One of my favorite shows, I don't know if you watched it, was Bar Rescue. That was my thing. I was like, I love changing it and reinventing it.
I mean, yeah, that show is, it kind of put an unrealistic take on what it really takes to run and lead a bar. I called in to fix one of the bars that guy did after he did it here in Chicago. Funny story, but no, it was kind of an exciting it was an exciting show, and it's not very realistic though, I gotta tell you. There is like, the timelines are a lot longer than what they kind of portray in those things, but the challenges are real, like, especially when you're coming into a space that already exists and you're coming into something that might have been there for a while and just needs a lot of love and a lot of help. But yeah, no, that's kind of what we do. We go in and we do some new builds, so from the ground up, all of the Chicagoland area, and then kind of sprinkled throughout the U.S. And a lot of the times coming into a space that's already existing can be either a challenge, or it could be leading up to something, a little bit more of an easier path. So, we're up for it all. And just to give you a little bit of background, we are an all-female Chicago-based firm. It kind of didn't really start off to be all-female, but then it was just kind of like, you know what, these are all great women. It's good to be empowered and surrounded by other great women. And, we have all different backgrounds, all kind of leading up to interior design. But, I've got a girl that is in a band. I've got a couple artists on our team. Just like a really nice, diverse crowd. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. But as a passion, what made you decide to become an entrepreneur?
I kind of grew up independent. Even since I was a young child, I liked just kind of, dance to my own song. And I knew earlier on that I didn't really want to work for somebody. And I think, going into the service industry, you are still working for somebody, but you're kind of your own person and you're kind of doing your own thing. Especially I bartended for years as well. And, just kind of having that own kind of independence, and, you kind of have a set schedule, but you can also kind of veer from that and make your own schedule, whether you want to work nights or days. And so just kind of starting from there and just realizing that I really wanted to be a team leader, and I really wanted to, I'm a teacher by, nature. So I kind of wanted to bring people in and kind of teach them that, you don't necessarily need, you went to school for this skill, but, you have a whole, a bucket of skills that you can bring to the table that might not just be, education based. And, just kind of starting there. And, I started with just me, and then, working out of my car, working out of my house, working out of cafes. And then I just slowly starting to build my team. We started everything in 2009. And then from there, now, years later, we've got a team of 10. So we're kind of on the smaller side. We're not a huge firm, but we take on big scale projects, which is great. But yeah, going back to your question, just like knowing that I wanted to just kind of make my own hours. I knew I wanted to have a family. So I knew, I want to be able to be there for the T-ball games. Also, like not only do I love and have a huge passion for interiors, I love my family too. And I want to make sure that I have time for that.
No, I agree. Everything that I've done, from all these talk shows to every moment, every success, every step, was simply because my kids were like, Mom, what's for dinner? Like, that was it. There was no magic where I was
Right.
like, I got to take over the world. It was, I have to figure out how to feed these kids. And I did. I wanted to be there to watch them take their first steps and hear their first words and their little laughs. And I love the pitter patter of little feet. So that was the motivation back in 1994 that led me all the way here today. So I definitely agree. I applaud Nicole. I am going to come back to you. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, the amazing Miss Lynne Golding. She is a best-selling and award-winning author. Lynne is the author of the historical fiction Beneath the Alders series. A graduate of the University of Toronto and Queen's University, she is a senior partner at the international law firm Fasken Martineau DuMoulin LLP, where she leads their health law practice group. Good morning, Lynne. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I love to learn. I love to meet new people, and I love to find out what people are passionate about.
Well, I have a few passions, as you could tell from my little bio there. Shall I tell you a little bit about myself?
You should tell me whatever your spirit
very
moves you to do. I'm here to listen to you.
Well, you'll see on this panel that I think I'm the only Canadian. So I've spent most of my life around Toronto, in a little place called, well, it's not so little anymore, called Brampton. It was little when I grew up, but it now has about 600,000 people. So it's a pretty big city. So born and raised there, went to law school, became a lawyer. I always say I was originally a regular mergers and acquisitions lawyer. I work in a really big firm and we did really big deals. But about 24 years ago, I started heading up our firm's health law practice group. So what I do mostly in my day job is work with hospitals and private clinics. But then my passion in my evenings and weekends and holidays is writing historical fiction. And that came about because I kind of had the care of my great aunt. She didn't have any children, so I was like a kind of a granddaughter to her. And when she turned 100, I asked her if she would move from a nursing home, which was kind of hard for me to get to one that was closer to me. And when she agreed to do that, I silently vowed that I would visit her once a week for the remaining years of her life. I didn't think there would be that many, but she lived to be 108. And as a visitor, I know. So
Whoa.
good genes, hoping that's good for me. As I visited her every week, the thing she liked to do was to talk about growing up in the small town of Brampton as it was when she grew up. And those stories have resulted in 3 historical fiction novels that I've written, the last one of which just came out. So that's now I will tell you I have one other passion, which I'm just going to say is a prelude to what's coming. And that is I'm also very involved in politics in Canada. So I know that may be relevant for one of your other guests. So maybe I'll stop there and come back.
We'll see. I love it though. And I've talked about this on the show a lot because I'm almost up to 300 episodes. But I tell people, if you watch the first maybe 7,500 episodes, I wasn't asking the question, what are you passionate about? And that kind of developed because I was going strictly based on the bio, and people started saying, well, I wanted to talk about this and I wanted to talk about that. And I was like, okay. So now I'm just like, what are you passionate about? I have found so many different things that were not on the bio that had absolutely nothing to do with the bio. And it's so intriguing. I love politics. What's the interest in politics for you, Lynne?
Well, My family was involved in politics. So when I was very young, I got involved to help my uncle, who was running to be a member of parliament, which is, similar to being a congressperson in the United States. And then I kept on being involved. But the thing that was my real passion there was helping to get more women elected in politics. So we had, we still have very poor numbers in terms of women in federal government and provincial government. We have more women involved in municipal politics in Canada. And let me tell you, we are a lot better off now than we were, 30 or 40 years ago when I first got involved, but we still have a shortage of women being elected. So I am on the conservative side of things, very, very much so, although that wouldn't translate the same in the United States. But always try and support women when they're running. So
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I tell people this show is not me. That's why I can brag about this show, because I didn't do it. The guests decide when they want to appear, and it's always some commonalities in the guests. It always happens. I don't know how. I've just learned that we have more that's in common than we do that is different. So thank you for that, Lynn. I am going to come back to you. I want to introduce a dear friend of mine. I've known this lovely young lady for years, but she was to me someone who kind of, to a certain extent, stayed in the background as far as what was going on in the world. She had her opinions, and she's always very opinionated, but she wasn't in the forefront in politics. Over the last couple of months, she watched what's going on in the world, and she said, you know what, if no one else is going to do something about it, I'm going to do something about it. Now she is running for Congress. Michelle Lyons, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to learn more about why you decided to take that leap of faith and go from behind the scenes and all the magic you were doing to in front of the scenes in politics.
Yes, well, as you know, I have had my own business for 5 years, and I have been drawn and paying attention much more to politics over the last 2 years than I have ever paid attention to politics. And I just didn't see someone who was really connecting to me. And I felt like if I didn't see anybody that was really connecting to me, then and I feel like I represent a large majority of people in this country. I'm a mother. I'm also conservative. I want change, and I'm just tired of the divisiveness. I think that right now our politicians are placating to too many special interest groups, and they're dividing themselves, more like a gang than the United States of America. And to me, I feel that we need more women to come forward to help unite the country. But I believe we need conservative women to come forward and help unite the country, because I think that for far too long, this country has been operating like a bad business, And now that I can see how it's operating, especially during this pandemic, it's really opened my eyes. I'm someone who's ran businesses for billionaires. So there's a way that self-employed people, I think, are starting to see our government, and we're realizing that even a lot of these people in government have never even ran businesses, and yet they're making rules for all of the businesses around the country, and they themselves have never even had an employee, So I've hired hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, because I also manage 2 other companies in addition to having my own. I've had 3 businesses, and I also wanted to also take my business into a different direction. So I have been running a modeling school. I've been the only modeling school that has done fashion shows all over the world. I've done Australian Fashion Week, Paris, Milan, London, you name it. I've been on that stage. But one thing that I always loved about modeling schools is teaching the etiquette and teaching the poise, and women really embracing their femininity, which I honestly believe I think femininity is the most powerful energy there is in the world, So I think that what I want to do is I really want to reimagine how we even discuss femininity and a feminist, because I think it's become more of masculinity, and it's become more of misogyny, and it's become something that if you have a daughter, which I have a daughter, you don't want your daughter to be a feminist, So I really want us to really reimagine how we're discussing what a woman's role is in society, because what I see happening is us going from one extreme to the next extreme, and both were toxic, and both are in my opinion, misogyny. I think the sweet where women are most empowered is in the middle, you know, having that balance in life, you know, to where you are a mom, a wife, and a career woman, you know. And these are things that I really want to start to help the next generation aspire for, you know, because I think that the past generation, we got lost, you know. A lot of the agendas that were pushed in society were really pushed to separate the families. And I think this is the reason why we have such the lowest birth rate ever in history right now, and things of that nature, because there have been so many agendas, and Hollywood has had such a big voice, and it's been pushing things that in real life do not lead to a happy home and raising, you know, sane children, you know. And I also think this is the reason why mental health is so big in this country, you know, because I think that we're no longer aspiring for normalcy. And I think that we've got to get some role models into politics. We've got to get role models into society. We've got to start putting more role models on big platforms so that the next generation isn't lost. Because I honestly feel like we've got a generation, if not a generation or two, that is lost, you know. And again, I think that it's just one pendulum going from the next pendulum, because I believe there were a lot of issues back in the day that were never addressed, you know. And so since those issues weren't addressed, then that person who is mentally ill or sick or whatever, they decided to cope with life the best way they could. And then a lot of them also got big platforms. And so instead of being a healed person on a big platform, you've got a lot of people, you know, promoting things that aren't going to lead others to a better life. And so my platform is really big with women empowerment and true women empowerment, not misogyny, you know, like real women empowerment. Like, yes, you can be a mom. It's the greatest gift in the world. You know, you can be a wife and you can go be a CEO. I'm big on being an entrepreneur. I think that not enough people in society are entrepreneurs or have an entrepreneurial mindset. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, I think we'll all be better off if we at least thought like an entrepreneur, or at least had that in mind to know what, and that way we would understand that everything has an equal or opposite reaction. Because a lot of times these politicians are able to kind of massage us and make us think we're about to get, you know, something, and what we're going to get isn't what we were promised, only because what we were promised was theoretical and not realistic, you know.
That makes a lot of sense. It definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's just where I'm at. You know, I'm relaunching my school this summer, where it's going to be focused on role modeling, you know, and focused on a big emphasis on the etiquette and the poise and tapping into your femininity, and the boys tapping into their masculinity. And then I'm you know, running my campaign for Congress, which, you know, the homelessness and, you know, self and entrepreneurship are my biggest platforms.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. Lynn, when you hear Michelle speak, what are your thoughts?
I think, wow, that's a lot those are great goals, a lot to accomplish. Curious about how you're going to, like, what policies would advance some of those outcomes. I don't know. I look at the states right now, and I just see such great division in the politics. And let me tell you, we have some of that here in Canada too, but I think it's more extreme in the states. But I have to say, I think that this divisiveness that we have, you know, all in North America and probably European countries too, is not good for our future. Like, I think we do have to find ways where we are talking about how we move together forward than blaming what has happened in the past. Is that something, Michelle, that resonates with you, like trying to find commonalities and forward?
It does. And I think that what society is missing the most is respect. You know, I think that we become a society that no one respects another person, you know, and I honestly believe the only way for America to work on having an equal ground is for America to shift right. Now, I'm saying that because I think America has shifted too far left. So I think the middle ground is going to be like right center, if that makes any sense, because at the end of the day, it's impossible in America that we have for a bunch of liberal and progressive ideas to unite the country. But we can all come together and say, hey, what world do we want for our children? What can we think about for our children? We can all come together and say, hey, let's have a respect in society. For example, I just think that no one is respecting everyone. No one respects everyone's ideas. And my campaign is let's turn California purple, and purple is blue and red mixing, and I do believe that, we've got to get more in the middle, and we've got to start putting Americans first, and again, I think that Americans, if you really listen to the progressives, and even if you listen to like the Trump supporters, if you really listen closely, they're saying the exact same thing. It's the media that's making them think that they're saying something opposite. What they're both saying is that the government has disappointed them. They're both a generation or generations that have been put behind because of special interest groups and because of foreign affairs, So we've got to have these two come to the middle to where they see that they're not the enemy. Because right now we're looking at each other, it's like crabs in a barrel, Americans against Americans. No, the issues are government. We should all be uniting and saying, hey, government, you're the problem, not us. The American people are not the problem. It's the government. And the government likes to keep everyone divided and have the media keep everybody divided, because that way the people aren't looking at the source,
No, I hear you. I've been having this conversation over the last few days, and it's not about politics to me. Even when I ran for city council, I would say that all the time. It's not politics, it's people. That's why I jumped into this arena. When I run for Senate in 2024, it's not about Democrats or Republicans. It's about the people. My focus is on the people. But one key thing that you mentioned is this thing about respect. That's what I've been talking about in a different way. Again, not politics, is having these discussions with some of the ways the men, because I just had a huge article run in the Long Beach Post, and I got 2,000 friend requests, and all these guys just started inboxing me like, you're just beautiful, and send me naked pictures. And I just I was so mad, because it's like our society has no respect anymore. No, for females or for women. Nicole, you've been quiet. I don't want to go too far into politics, but you were talking about women and women empowerment. What are your thoughts?
No, that's okay. I really appreciate all of Michelle's views and Lynn's support to some of those views. And I mean, I agree and disagree on some of those matters. But again, I don't want to get too far into the politics. I was just kind of curious as to, you speak a lot about role models and respect, and you speak a lot about all the a lot of these political views. What's your take on the environment and like a lot of the issues that are happening in the environment today? And what can you see like a big push to kind of help those things, because those are kind of long-term things that are really starting to affect us now?
Yes. So I'm actually just joined this group called Climate Change for Long Beach. So the main thing is that I'm very pro environment. I think the way that we're going about it is a bit brash, so it's something to where, for example, I wouldn't have personally, if I was president, I wouldn't have got rid of the Keystone pipeline until I had jobs in place. To me, you don't get rid of one thing until you have something to replace it, so it's already been there. Another year wouldn't have killed anybody, in my opinion, so again, I think that what we need to do if we're going to move into this green economy, which we've attempted multiple times, we've got to set that up before we start laying people off and things. And that's why we're having hyperinflation, a lot of these other things, because it's happening and it's moving so brash. I honestly think it's purposely being done to try to get everybody. I think right now the government's trying to get everybody to buy EVs. There's a big push right now for electronic vehicles. So they want your gas prices to shock you. They want you to be like, oh no, it's $7 at the pump. So it's because they're trying to force you to get an electronic vehicle. And like I said, for me, the way I operate in leadership, I operate with more transparency. And what I'm seeing from our previous and our government now is that we just don't have more transparency. The American people are not stupid. Some are, but too many are not stupid. So we, instead of us placating to the lower people, we need to start placating to the smarter people, you know. And I think that, or even the people in the middle, but we are dumbing down American citizens way too much. You know, we need to be, we need a lot more truth, a lot more transparency, you know. And again, I'm for a green economy, whether there's climate change is real or not. You know, do I think that the world is going to explode in 10 years? No, I don't. But I think that a healthier environment helps everyone. I'm very much, you know, I believe in God. I'm a Christian. So I believe God created, you know, the universe, the trees, the whales in the ocean. So I care about all God's creatures, you know. So I'm very for a green economy, but I think that it needs to be done much smoother than what it's being laid out. So, and if it's not done well, then it will backfire. And that's what I don't want to happen, because it's already backfired 2 times. This is actually our 3rd time trying to push the green economy. And each time it's backfired, it's because it's because the infrastructure for the green economy hasn't already been pushed in place. So they should be focusing on pushing the infrastructure for the green economy. And then that way you can just transition people from coal to this. You can transition people from this to that. But just to start cutting off stuff and say, hey, you're on your own, it causes frenzy, it causes panic, it causes people afraid of change, it causes so many different things. Whereas if you already had, look, your jobs are gone at the Keystone Pipeline, but guess what? We've got jobs for you in you know, electric vehicles already lined up. We've got a plant that's opened already, and we've got,
there are jobs that are opening up. It's just a lot of people that are on unemployment right now are making more money on unemployment than, you know, what they can make if they go back to work. They're getting stimulus checks, they're getting all of these things. What are your views on that?
Well, I think a lot of that's going to be ending by September. So I'm not so much.
But let me just say this. Okay, go ahead. Finish that. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Hey, no, I was just saying I'm not as worried about that, just because I know that all of this stuff is going to end by September. So I'm not worried about that. And I think that the states that have been open the entire time have already canceled. So states like California, it would be unfair, because we haven't even fully opened. We don't even open until June 15th. So, I mean, obviously our state is in a completely different predicament. I mean, people have literally, I think 1/3 of restaurants have been shut down. You know, most people, at least self-employed people's economic situation has changed drastically. So yeah, I think by September, because California, we're told by September, all the unemployment stuff will end. So I'm sure if California is ending by September, the entire country is ending by September.
Well, there are a lot of places in the country that have already ended the unemployment, because that's what the governors decide. And I love that question, Nicole. I thank you. I appreciate that for asking that, because I have been having this conversation, and I am one of those people who do not believe in any form of fashion that it is because the unemployment, because all the people have been getting since July of 2020 is an additional $300 per week. So if you're earning on $100 in unemployment, and you get the government giving you $300, that's only $400 a week. So I think a lot of people don't want to go out and work. And we were watching this and discussing this at a restaurant last night when I went out, is a lot of people don't want to work all day with the mask. People they can go to the restaurant, and once they sit down, the mask can go off. But if you're an employee, if you're working anywhere, especially in hospitality, I have a friend who's a cop, and that is his biggest complaint, is having to go to work and wear his mask all day. People don't want to go and get these jobs, and they have to wear a mask. That's my thoughts, Nicole. I would love
I disagree with that, because I've actually talked to a lot of people, and I don't know the different rates of you know, unemployment and the stimulus checks, you know, per state to state, but a lot of people, and even people in my family, are just, I've sat down with them, what's going on with the job? Why don't you have a job? Why are you looking? Are you actually, yeah, I'm looking, but I'm not going to take, you know, I'm to make $50 more than I'm making on unemployment and with my stimulus. than and to go work in a factory when I can just, you know, save that money in gas and sit at home. So there, it is real, and it is out there that people don't want to go back to work because they are making more on unemployment, more money on unemployment. And as far as the masks go, you know, I agree with that to an extent, but a lot of people in hospitality aren't going back because they had to go look for other jobs and they're doing other things. You know, I know a lot of people, some of my friends who have gone back to school that have been in hospitality because, you know, they were just sitting for so long, not making anything. And, you know, coming from a hospitality background, make a lot of money in hospitality, and like you can't make that on unemployment or stimulus. So it's like they had to go search, you know, look through other outlets.
Right.
So yeah,
No,
I don't know.
I hear you. I hear you. But let me go back to when you said that a person makes $50 more going to work as opposed to staying at home on unemployment. So again, I have this conversation with a lot of different people. To me, that's not the issue. And I'm running for Senate, so I'm gonna have all these conversations. You got to go to the root, to the cause of the problem. The problem is they don't have the jobs that would allow them to earn a living wage. So if the difference is $50 between their unemployment and their job, why would you go get a job that's paying you $50 more? You should have a job with a living wage where this unemployment is $400 a week, but that job will pay me $700 a week or $800 a week. That's my view. Then you have a lot more people who will say, yes, I'll take that job. I cut you off, Lynn. You had a thought or a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's true. And we have those issues here as well. You know, every time I go grocery shopping, there's signs up saying, hey, want to come and work where you'll actually get to meet people and get out of your house. Like, they're very desperate for workers here in Canada as well. Another complication we have, I don't know if you have it, is that our schools are not yet fully open. Or sometimes they open, like daycare might be open, but then as soon as there's an outbreak, then the school is closed or the daycare is closed for a couple of weeks. So that makes it really hard for women in particular to think about re-entering the workplace when they can't be certain that there'll be somebody available to look after their kids. So hopefully in the fall, our schools will all be open again, and then we can better assess, you know, some of those reasons for why people aren't going back to work. But Nicole, I was going to ask you, because you raised that question about the environment. Do you have customers asking you to be conscious of environmental things when you're designing or redesigning their premises?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, people are always interested in it. But because, you know, to bring up to Michelle's point, it's a lot more expensive to go green than it is to try to get, you know, you have a tight budget. People are more looking for that in their homes. They're more willing to spend more money on that, like when we're doing residential design, but they're always interested. And that question does raise. And then, you know, kind of when we get to the finance portion of it and they start seeing the numbers and, you know, it's significantly higher to go green, then it's kind of like, okay, well, what can we do to try to do that? And what we try to offset is try to use like a lot of more like resourced and like repurposed items. So, you know, things that we can go in and maybe buy some used furniture pieces and bring those into a project versus buying new and having them shipped from overseas and looking at, you know, all the emissions that would take to get it there. You know, trying to find things as local as possible and kind of trying to offset that, you know, as much as we can, because the building materials a lot of the times can't be reused, especially if we're doing a new build. So, you know, construction, I mean, that's a whole nother element. But yeah, to your question, yeah, we do always look at every project with trying to be as green and eco-friendly as possible.
Yeah. Why are you so, go ahead, Lynn, sorry.
Do you have trouble right now sourcing things? We have incredible supply chain problems in Canada right now. You know, to order a refrigerator, our fridge broke down in October. It took us 3 months to get a new refrigerator. And to have lumber here, it's like people make jokes about, you know, which is more likely to be stolen, cocaine or the lumber that you have sitting out on your driveway waiting to have a fence built with it. Like we have real supply chain issues with all those building materials right now. Do you have those to deal with?
No, yeah, 100%. Like steel is like, it was for a while, lumber was more than steel, and now steel's becoming, you know, more expensive too. You know, it's kind of all like the supply and demand, and it's insane. And then the lead times on things too, because now everybody wants to build. you know, we were on hold for so long, and now everybody's like, let's get those bars and restaurants open. We want to get those people in and get them drinking. The city needs the revenue. You know, it's like, sorry, we cut you off. What were you saying?
Cut who off? No, we were listening
Oh,
to
you.
Nicole.
I'm sorry. No,
No,
I
no,
just
I
started
was
rambling.
No, you were not rambling. That's what we do at the round table. We babble, we ramble, we go off, we get on soapboxes, we go off on tangents. No, what I was going to ask was, because you asked about the environment, so I just wanted to know why you were so, you know, was there a specific reason you were so passionate about it?
Well, I mean, for, you know, to speak to some of our other speakers, you know, we're talking about the future of the children. I mean, that has a huge significant thing. I mean, we are going to see a change in the next 10 to 20 years. You know, the world may not explode, but we will see significant changes if we don't start doing things to improve our environment and to improve, like, you know, our air, our everything. I mean, our emissions are out of control right now. And, you know, I kind of like the push for everybody to go electric. I don't see the problem in it. And that's going to create more jobs. And there is a lot of jobs in, you know, that's happening right now behind a lot of these electric vehicles and a lot of eco-friendly options. So yeah, I mean, I am very passionate about it. Again, we try to be as green as we can within our financial reasons, you know.
No, it's not a bad thing. I'm just nosy, Nicole. Just understand
Yeah,
that I
no.
just ask questions because I always, you know, one of the reasons I ask, you know, certain questions is because I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to go too far, but then I'm like, I know there's someone who watching who has the same question and they want to know, so I just ask that question. So I don't think there's anything wrong with EVs at all in any form or fashion. I agree with you that we have to, you know, help the planet, save the planet. I had a lady who was on the show the other day. Her passion is helping wolves. That's what she does. That's what she dedicated her life to. And she says she wanted people to know the importance of wolves. And little naive Sharifa was like, well, what's the importance of wolves? And she literally had to explain that without wolves, it breaks up the whole chain of, you know, this animal grows wild and that animal now can do this, or, you know, and then the grass, like she broke it down to the honeybees. I was like, oh my God, knowledge is power. I had no idea. So that's why I asked the whys, not to judge your beliefs, but to understand, you know, these issues. Michelle, what are your thoughts?
I'm so glad that you asked me this, because my problem is that America is the most capitalistic country that has ever existed. So if you give America an inch, it wants a mile. And I think that this is the reason why the green economy has failed several times in the past, is because it has not been rolled out the correct way. And it's just been a money grab, you know, and I think that's why you have some conservatives and people like that don't even believe in it, because it's such a money grab, you know. Because right now, if you guys don't even know, Elon Musk has been got paid a fortune last year, you know, something like, I don't know, a couple $100 million or something like that, just off of the amount of EVs that weren't sold, because he gets paid credits every time EVs are not sold. He gets paid, you know, because we were just in a year where hardly anybody was buying a car because everybody was stuck at home during the pandemic. But there's a real push to promote electric vehicles. In our state, California, Gavin Newsom signed a bill saying that you can't even sell a gas car in the next 10, 15 years. I believe it's 15 years, right? So by 2035, there's no more even selling gas cars in California. So again, like I said, I'm very pro-environment, but I am against things like GMOs, and I'm against the lab meats and things of that nature, which they're also trying to put on this, you know, because again, Americans get greedy. So if it's about green now, everybody's trying to get paid, you know, but I don't think that it's healthier for us to eat something that's made in the lab, whether it's saving the environment or not, because then we're talking about saving the environment and killing humans, you know. So you know, it's, everything has to be balanced, and this world is meant to be in balance, and we were made to eat animals as well, you know. So I think that we just have to get, just like everything else in America, we have no balance, and we need to have balance. And I definitely think that the green cars will help with the carbon emissions. Again, I know that a lot of people talk about China and talk about Russia. We're not China, we're not Russia, we're America. So I have no problem with us leaning forward. I have no problem with California. If California can get this right, California can be like the Jetsons or something like that. I mean, we could be this really futuristic state that, you know, everyone's driving around electronic vehicles. We've got all these, you know, if you're talking about you're in interior design, I mean, you can get a great contract from the government, because I mean, everything is, Gavin Newsom is trying to make everything green. You know, they're about to redo all these apartments, these homes. I mean, we're about to get in, we're trying to get into the future. So again, we just have to be careful that it doesn't hurt the economy. But yeah.
But let me just ask you this, Michelle, because one of the things that I want to go back to your initial introduction when you started talking slightly, and I don't want to misquote you. That's why I love to sit down and have these conversations a little bit about our roles and the woman's role. Now, for you, do you feel that this is your role to step up in Congress and create what America determines is a specific role, or what balance looks like?
Yes, because I think that not enough. I think right now we're pushing the wrong message to young girls, and we've been pushing the wrong message to young girls for a while, but now it's just on overload, you know, where you have people right now, you know,
What is the wrong message? What is the wrong message? The
wrong message is trying to make women take on masculine traits, you know, and I think that the most, and I get it. I get why feminism started, and I understand feminism started, just so everybody understands the history of, I'm a big historian, you know, I can tell you about things that happened in ancient Egypt and everything else. And I've also lived in 5 countries. So feminism started because women were at home and being abused, and men were taking them for granted and so forth, you know, and they wanted to use their mind, and they wanted to work too. And this is America, this is a free country. But now feminism has become, let's be everything that was terrible about men.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Michelle, John Golowaski says, good point about masculine traits. So I want to go over to Lynne right quick. I didn't mean to cut you off, Michelle, but I just wanted to kind of, you know, stir the pot a little bit. Lynne, what are your thoughts so far on this conversation?
Well, I think it's interesting profiling women and setting good role models. And in fact, that's kind of what got me going on my book, because this great aunt of mine had a really incredible life. And I think, you know, we can learn a lot from the past. So like Michelle, very much agree. We have to look to the past for lessons that can be learned, but then we have to, you know, forge a future that is positive looking. But anyway, my great aunt was born in 1903. And at that time, she was raised to believe, you know, she would go to school, she'd be a teacher for a couple of years, then she would get married and she would lead a life just like her mother did. I mean, that just was the way it was. But she came of age at the end of World War I, and 60,000 Canadian men died in that war, 3 times the number were injured. So there's this whole generation of women that there were not enough men for them to marry, and they had to forge these very different paths. So I don't know about you ladies, but I had 3 spinster great aunts when I grew up. And these were women from that generation who had to forge this different path. So my great aunt ended up going to university. She studied biochemistry. She became a researcher and then a professor and then a dean at U of T. She joined the Royal Canadian Air Force in World War II. She never flew, but she was part of the force, and she ran the canteen at this huge training place in Toronto. She had a radio show where she gave advice to people about nutrition and things to do with biochemistry in the home. She continued going to university just, you know, to take courses as a continuing education process into her 80s, taking computer science, because she thought there might be a future in those computers. So she was just a really interested, curious person who really forged this different path for women. So I think that, you know, we need to celebrate those women. We need to look at how people like that can change their futures. It's a very different future she had than the one that she was told she would have as a child. So I think you're quite right, Michelle, that we have to put more people in the window. People like Nicole as well, you know, women who are out there. I'm the same way I am a mother, a wife, but also have a business and also have these other passions, and showing that, you know, there are many different ways that you can meet your passion. I gotta tell you this, I have never been one to say to my kids, you can be anything in the world you want to be. Okay. I think that's a bunch of bull. You never can be anything you want to be. But I do believe, you know, if you work hard, you will succeed. And so I do always try and instill that in my kids, you know, work hard, identify what it is you want to do, create a path to try and get there. And hopefully you will. And if you don't, you've got to have a good plan B. We all need plan Bs.
Can I say something?
And I have a question to them, Lynn, after you're done. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I wanted to say something, because when I say that I want to be a role model and things of that nature, it's because I went to a friend of mine who's a lawyer. I went to her birthday party a couple of years ago. 10 women were there, all in their 40s, and not a single one of them was married with children. You know, if you guys don't know, it's a huge epidemic in America right now, especially with Black women. And all of them gorgeous women and things of that nature. And I think that for a lot of us, we've been so driven that we put our families and so forth on the back burner. It's like women feel as if they've got to choose one, you know, and society does say that. My boss, who trained me before I started my own business, I had 2 bosses, both of them millionaires, drop dead gorgeous women. And they all pulled me aside because they could see, you know, I used to work 80, 90 hours a week. This was in my early 30s. And they all pulled me aside and would tell me in their vulnerable stages, if they could do anything over again, they would have had a child or more children. One of them had no children. And she was like, Michelle, I was making, you know, millions of dollars in my 30s. And this was back in the 80s, you know, and she's like, next thing you knew, she's like, I went to the doctor one day, Michelle, and the doctor told me I couldn't have any kids. She's like, time just went by like that, you know? And I think that a lot of women are seeing that time just goes by like this. And if time is the most valuable thing that we have, then our bloodline and our health are the most treasured things we have. So how do we get women, if we have a society right now that is pushing women to be the next president of the United States, get that CEO job, be this, be that, how do we get women to also understand and make time to have children and to, you know, possibly be married? You know, I'm no longer married, so I can't force people to be married, but I can tell you that the best gift ever is having children, you know, and I would give away every accomplishment from Berkeley. I took a class at Harvard. I would give away all of these things if I could only choose one between having children, you know, or having all the money and the accolades that I have on my resume. So again, for me, I want my platform to be about having children, and setting aside time for that, but also you can be that boss and also you can be that wife, you know, because we have so many agendas, you know, we literally, especially with how much we push abortion in this country. I mean, it's just so many things that we do to women to let them not know that there's nothing better than being a mother. We even have created a society that looks down on housewives. And I know, because I used to be like that. You know, I used to think because I was driving a Mercedes and I was making 6 figures that for some reason I was better than a woman who didn't have a job, but who is doing the best job ever, which is raising children.
A mom.
You know?
I definitely, I hear you. I hear you. I was having this discussion yesterday, or over the weekend. I've been having a lot more discussions. And one of the gentlemen brought something to my attention. He said part of it, in his opinion, again, I'm stating, you know, a conversation, was that when we pushed for equality, he kind of agreed with Michelle that we went too far, and that we started to believe that being equal was the same as a man. So it's not about equality, but now men treat women like they would treat a man. Because my whole thing was like respect. A lot of people aren't showing women the respect we deserve. So I'm gonna get Nicole. Nicole has been waiting patiently, and I'm seeing Nicole moving over there. I see her.
Well, no,
So,
I was actually going to try to change the subject and ask Lynn a different question, but then I kind of circled back and I have another question. You're talking about having children. Do you support universal health care and childcare?
Me? What?
Yeah.
100% I support affordable health care, and I am probably in favor of universal child care, but not universal health care, just because in my mind there's theory and then there's practical. You know, I think that one, I don't trust all of the medical industry in the United States to make anything universal, you know, and I don't know if I want the government involved that much in everybody's body. You know, I feel like, to me, universal health care sounds like every hospital turns into county hospital, and that sounds like a nightmare, you know. I believe in affordable health.
What do you mean by affordable?
Affordable or Medicare for everyone else. So basically meaning that if you cannot qualify for private insurance, or then you can get Medicare. I believe basically what I believe in is very similar to what Gavin Newsom is doing right now. And I have my qualms about Gavin Newsom. I definitely have said some terrible things about him. The best thing Gavin Newsom has done, if he gets reelected, is during this pandemic, he made Medi-Cal for everyone that cannot afford it. Okay, that is what he did here in California should be done around this country. So because universal health care is telling someone who goes to a private doctor who they trust, who is not programmed by Dr. Fauci, you know, and they can afford to have the best quality, and telling them, no, you have to go to government. No, people who can afford it should be able to go where they want to go, but people who cannot afford it need to be able to be covered. And what Gavin Newsom did is everyone who cannot afford it is able to now do Medi-Cal. When it used to be, you know, you had to be over 65, or you used to just have to have like no income. Now it's even if you have income, if you can't afford it, you qualify for Medi-Cal. That should be done. What's going on in California should be done around the country. That if he gets reelected, which most likely he will, it will be because of that. That is his greatest accomplishment since he's been in office.
Yeah, I guess the other thing that probably would help increase the birth rate in the United States is longer maternity leaves for moms to be off work after their children are born, and fathers to have the same rights and for a longer period of time, which is something, you know, we do have a lot more of that in Canada. I think our birth rate used to be, I mean, the Americans' birth rate used to be much higher than Canada, because I think you were nearly 3, and now I think you're 1.7, and I think we're about 1.7 as well. Who knows?
Yes,
what
I agree. Michelle, I have to correct this, and I'm gonna do this live on air, because they're telling me in the chat that the link I posted didn't work. So I'll correct it, but they want to know, Michelle, what is your website? They're Googling you. That's what they're telling me right now, that they are Googling you. So we'll add that in the link. Michelle is getting that for us. We are coming down to the last. This has been an interesting conversation. And I'm telling you, I try to stay away from politics on all my shows. So if people want to
that
see,
didn't work out so well.
It didn't, and I tried. I was like, oh my God, because I don't need all
I love
of this.
it. I love this though. This is like, I'm ready for the day now. I could go like start my day. My juices are flowing.
Well, I take it you're glad you came to the show this morning. So
no, this is great.
This is wonderful. I want to, at the end of every show, what I love to do is just allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And before I do that, Liz, in the chat room, Michelle's website, I'm going to post it right now in the comments, but it's thelionqueenfearlessleader.com, thelionqueenfearlessleader.com, and I'm going to post it in the chat. Lynn, what do you want people to take away from your appearance here today?
Well, I guess I'll just hold up my book because it was my publisher that arranged for me to come on here. So I better do a little bit of promotion about the book rather than just politics. So as I say, this is a series. It goes from 1907 to 1931, which was a period of real change in North America. My book takes place in small town Canada, but I don't think it's much different than small town United States. And it's about how, innocent life was before World War I, about the incredible toll that World War I took on all the countries participating at both abroad and at home. And my book is really about life at home. And then about how society had to change so much after the war. So, we had a period of prohibition. You had prohibition in the States, we had temperance in Canada, and that was designed to eliminate society's evils. We know it created a whole bunch of new evils. So the breakdown of that and the return to a society where men were returning home from overseas, the economy was shrinking, it was changing, women were entering the workforce, family life was changing. So a real period of change, written in a historical fiction way. So hopefully you'd find it interesting to read. So the last book is called The Mending. And that is part of a trilogy. So I would highly recommend my book.
I am going to check it out. Where can people pick it up?
People can order it from Amazon. So Amazon has it. So Lynne Golding, as I say, the most recent one is The Mending.
The Mending by Lynne Golding. Go ahead and check that out. Nicole, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I think no matter what kind of background you come from, no matter what your upbringing, you're always able to, pick up trades and learn from other people, learn from empowering women, learn from empowering men, society as a general whole, to start your own business and being an entrepreneur. And, that's kind of where I came from was, I came from a different background, and I kind of took that and translated it into all sorts of things and grew my company into something great. And and my interior design firm is Siren Betty Design out of Chicago, Illinois. Again, we work with a variety of different businesses and people all throughout the US. And again, let's just hold each other up and support each other and listen to one another and see the both sides of things. I loved being a part of this discussion. I loved all your ladies' views. I think they're great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it all.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you being willing to have the conversation. That's the most important thing, because my philosophy is change starts with the conversation. Michelle, what do you have for us?
Yes, so my name is Michelle Lyons, and I'm running for the 47th district. I have a book that is coming out. It was supposed to come out in March, called The Lion Queen, A Woman's Guide to Becoming a Fearless Leader. But I'm actually in the middle of getting a book deal. So I'll be announcing that book deal next month, and the book should be coming out by the holiday. So by November, it'll be right out for everybody to read. And, I'm all about women empowerment. And the truth is that I love, Kamora Lee Simmons said it best. She's like, women have never been equal. We've always been superior, So the funny thing is that, I say that to say that there's so much that we possess. We give birth, we have intuition, we are mothers, we're loving. These are qualities that help us, and they're our most powerful qualities. And so this energy, I feel like we really need to tap into. I think the world needs to tap into it, which is why I'm going into politics, because like I said, I feel like that energy is missing in the world today. And I think that's why we have a lot of the issues we have. It's all about bringing everybody together. It's all about love. This country, we all need to start looking at each other as Americans and one big family. And it's time to put America first.
I love it. I believe that wholeheartedly. Now I'm over here. Sometimes I get distracted because Liz is telling me in the chat room, she says, OMG, Nicole's Instagram is so amazing. And so I'm like, what's so amazing about the Instagram? What's her thing? She was like, it's at Siren Betty Design. So I'm checking out Nicole's Instagram and listening to Michelle at the same time. And I agree All of you women are amazing. This has been an amazing show. I can't wait to read your book, Michelle. So whenever it comes out, please let me know, and I will let the people know. We will bring you back on the show to discuss your book. We're going to have you back quite a few times to discuss your campaign every step of the way. So, hey, I definitely want to support you. I want to thank you all for being today's guest on the Roundtable Talk Show. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. Just because you didn't catch the show live doesn't mean you're not important. It definitely doesn't mean I still don't need your support, because I do. Please go ahead and share this show. But as always, please don't just watch the show. Please don't just share the show. Support our guests. Our guests are here this morning to share their stories, their opinion, their businesses with you. So please support them. Their website link is in the Facebook post. Follow them on social media. Reach out to them. Send them a message. And when you do, please let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at asksharifa.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.